meditation isn't about achieving stillness. It's not about just closing down your eyes and then like telling yourself you're going to stop having thoughts and then you're just going to drop into peacefulness.
Yeah.
It's actually about the art of being aware of whatever is visiting you right now and just being with it without attachment.
Hi there. Welcome to Adventures in Wellbeing. My name is Damian Chaparro. And today we are diving into something that might feel counterintuitive, particularly to those who are high achievers. It's the art of sitting still. I'm here with Samantha Tomkinson, an executive leadership coach who specializes in emotional intelligence. And before you think emotional intelligence, that sounds fluffy, stick around, because what we're really talking about is the foundation for sustainable success in an increasingly complex world. Sam works with senior leaders who are navigating more change, more ambiguity, more decision-making fatigue than ever before. So if that sounds at all familiar, you'll get to see what she is learning. Turns out the very skills that got these leaders to where they are, control, drive, relentless forward motion, are often the same patterns that need to evolve. We'll explore why checking in with your feelings isn't a soft skill anymore, why overwhelm is often a messenger, and how learning to sit in discomfort might be one of the most valuable capacities you can develop. If this resonates, please hit follow or subscribe on the platform you're using. This helps you find us again. It also helps us create better content. Okay, let's get into it. Enjoy. All right, Samantha Tomkinson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. I was just reflecting after receiving your work on this retreat. We're here day 5 of Leadership Reset, and particularly thinking about my life over the last couple of years, really being probably 2 of the wilder, weirder, more tricky years of my work life anyways. And just wanted to start by asking, and what is it that you're noticing in your work with leaders? Is there anything in particular that you see as a trend or particular challenges that leaders are dealing with these days?
I'm definitely seeing heightened challenges from normal, a lot more anxiety, there's a lot more change just going on in the world, I feel, at the moment as well in general. So a lot of leaders are traveling through a lot of change, and a lot are kind of forced into a lot of questions that maybe that have been avoiding or stepping away from for a while. So I think there's just like a lot more ambiguity. This whole concept, we talk about decision-making fatigue, has been a concept the literature has given to us, that there's a lot more fatigue around decision-making because the path forward isn't clear anymore. So I'm working with a lot of leaders in my space, helping them sit in discomfort, which I think is one of the most beautiful tools we can ever learn. So letting go of control, which might have been the thing that's got them to where they are today, and now having to adapt and pivot and change into this place of holding and sitting in discomfort.
And if somebody were listening here today and they were thinking, wow, a leadership reset retreat, like that sounds kind of interesting. I wonder if that's for me. I know, when I first came to New Zealand and I was traveling around, I remember one particular conversation I had with somebody where I was describing what a health retreat was to them. And this person said, oh, we don't do that. And if you were reflecting on whether or not something like this was for you, what would be maybe some hints that it's time or it would be of good value or you might get something out of it?
Yeah, see, I find that amazing because I think leaders can get a bit of a bad rap in the world. They're making these like really crucial decisions for people all the time. And, if they make a decision that's not in your belief system or something that you're not liking, then it's easy to be like, oh, that person. But if you put yourself into the shoes of these leaders, what they're doing and the decisions that they're making, it's hard, it's complex. And I think these are the people that exactly need to be on a wellbeing retreat. As a leader in this world, I think it's really important that you are really deliberate about your wellbeing and taking time for you, because a lot of the time you're giving energy out, you're supporting others, you're making complex decisions, you're dealing with ambiguity, you're working very long hours, and wellbeing is the thing that's going to sustain that. there's this whole concept of manage your energy, not your time. And I see leaders who really succeed sustainably into the future are ones that do that really well. They don't think about how many hours they've got in their day, but they think of themselves as an energetic being and what energy am I giving out, and therefore what energy needs to come in. And I think this Wellbeing retreat, and we've seen it here on day 5, it's just so important for them to sustain what they're doing and do the wonderful work that they're doing for the rest of us.
Tell us a little bit about the difference. I know personally, as someone who runs a business, I can pay attention to finance and I can pay attention to, all sorts of different modalities that help me to run a business. Probably, the list would be endless. And what we're working with here, it seems, is, I guess, emotional intelligence. And you're giving us a lot of really valuable tools that we can use. Where do you notice that fits in? And why is that important as a leader? It almost feels like a soft skill or something like that.
I was just talking about this to someone earlier today about emotional intelligence. When I started my business 7 years ago, I remember someone saying to me like, oh, you're going to specialize in emotional intelligence. Like, that's way too fluffy. Like, who's going to buy that? Then it's just build and built, and more people are realizing that it is the cornerstone, it is the foundation for all, not just leadership success, but life success. And we are energetic beings, and realizing that and managing that is going to help you succeed in life. And it's been really lovely seeing how more and more organizations now have got an emotional intelligence program as part of their core development offerings, and are putting a lot more emphasis now on well-being and emotional intelligence than they did before, where it might have just been like a bit of a tick box exercise before. So learning to manage your emotions. And a lot of people get confused between emotions and feelings, thinking it's going to be a retreat where we just sit and cry for 5 days. But actually emotions they're everything. They're the thoughts, they're the feelings, they're the belief system that we're operating under every single day. So really learning to build your own self-awareness and learning to harness your emotion is one of the best life skills, and certainly one of the best leadership skills. And we see that through the science and research and data. Daniel Goleman said back in 1995 in his article, Why EQ Matters More Than IQ, which put it into the forefront of leaders' minds. And ever since then, it's just grown and grown. And it gets talked about now as being the cornerstone. And the recent Harvard Business article that just came out around crisis leadership got so much uptake. And they talk very much about the art of holding in this ambiguous world, how leaders are going to have to learn to manage their energy and emotions, but also the art of holding other people in that space going forward.
I feel like for a lot of people, they might feel their emotional states and, the way they are, the kind of their responses to the world is fairly fixed or is outside of the realm of something to work with. It's almost maybe a place that we don't really go. Are there kind of like yellow flags that might show up for somebody? Like, oh, if I'm noticing this in my life, this would be a place where I really could reap some amazing benefit. What would somebody potentially be noticing in their life that...
It's funny because I'm a big fan of the proactive management of emotional intelligence, but usually what happens is leaders reach a place of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And everything that once was very clear is now very confusing. And they literally get forced to a space of like, I need help. And then that's when they start reaching out to me, and we start unpacking it and we start working on it. So overwhelm, I think that just is what I hear from people. I'm overwhelmed. I'm confused. The things that were easy for me before are now really difficult, and I'm not sure what to do. So that's self, but actually emotional intelligence, we're beings that are designed to be in relationship with others. The other side of the coin of people that come to me is I'm struggling to engage my team, or there's lots of turnover and I don't know what's going on. So if it's not necessarily overwhelm in self, there's something going on in their environment or their relationships that they're struggling with. And then they think, okay, this is the time to look at myself in a bit more detail and see what I might be doing or how I might be contributing to this problem.
Cool. Is there something that you could guide us through as an example of something maybe I might do as a practice from emotional intelligence that we could experience something?
Yeah.
If you're driving or something right now, like this is maybe not for you, but if you're somewhere that you can do something.
Yeah. I think the starting point for anyone on their emotional intelligence journey is self-awareness. The check-in is the most important starting point. Checking in, particularly for leaders, I find checking in with feelings, because we are being paid to use our minds and make decisions. So sometimes we neglect our feelings, we neglect our bodies. We don't realize that our heart is beating like a ridiculous rate and we haven't really eaten some proper food in a long time. So I would just encourage leaders to check in. And I think that's a beautiful thing to do when you're driving. And it's simply asking yourself, how am I feeling? How am I really feeling? Not what am I thinking and what's occupying my mind and what am I trying to sort out, but how am I feeling right now? And you might want to just feel into the shoulders, feel into the body, and just go, yeah, what is that feeling that's visiting me right now? And it's checking in with self as opposed to putting that energy out.
Yes, if I were to do that, right? First, I was noticing that there was actually a little bit of tension in my belly, maybe almost like a little nervousness. And there was a sort of warmth around my eyes. And then as I closed my eyes and I just went inside, I noticed that my shoulders dropped a little bit, and almost just my observance of my inner space seemed to have an effect that softened things a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, just the art of paying attention can just soften straight away. So the art of just getting curious with ourselves and taking the energy in, bringing energy to ourselves. It's really, really powerful and a beautiful starting point to build your self-awareness journey that is utilizing thought as well as feeling, recognizing that you're not just a mind, you're a mind and a body and a whole holistic system that operates seamlessly together.
Yeah. How does that practice is maybe a sister or a cousin to meditation? How do you see those two working together?
Oh, beautiful. Meditation gets branded around a lot. And I think you said this on retreat, actually, Damian, that it can get a bit confusing for people because leaders are achievers, right? They like a good goal. So the amount of leaders that I've spoken to, I tried meditation, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Which just chuckles me every time because there's a whole point being missed there, that meditation isn't about achieving stillness. It's not about just closing down your eyes and then like telling yourself you're going to stop having thoughts and then you're just going to drop into peacefulness.
Yeah.
It's actually about the art of being aware of whatever is visiting you right now and just being with it without attachment. And again, I think leaders struggle with that a bit more because they're kind of, again, getting paid to control. They're getting paid to control the environments they're in and move things in a certain direction. So the art of letting go to drop into a place of awareness of everything is usually quite a challenging task that usually involves some kind of journey, which is why I'm a massive fan of leadership retreats. Because initially on day one, you probably see this yourself, Damien, is that people are just like, no, can't do this, blah, 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 blah. And then you get to like beautiful, like we've just had a beautiful experience this morning where, you know, people are getting it. They're sat there in a place of non-attachment and just awareness of everything that's coming up. And meditation, yeah, it's the guide to get you there. But it is very much a journey. It's not a task that you tick off and do.
It's really a different set of skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost the antithesis of what we've taught. And, you know, if I think about all the time in my life that I've spent trying to be more productive, to be more educated, to be more wise, you know, to keep up with the news and manage the finances and just this whole world, like an enormous amount of my schooling and time was given to that skill set. And then you find, well, I'm still not feeling very good, or I'm not too comfortable, or I'm actually more anxious than I was 10 years ago or whatever. And it just seems to me that on the other side of that skill set is what you're talking about, which is something entirely different, where we're really just noticing that we can craft a relationship with the moment. We can practice acceptance and observation and curiosity and savoring and, you know, all these completely different things.
Beautiful things. Yeah.
Here we're doing a lot of group work and there's availability for one-on-one work. What do you do when you're working with somebody one-on-one? And any differences there?
Yeah, it's changes depending on the person. I think, you know, I meet them wherever they're at. Yeah, it's interesting because let's say they come to me like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm a senior leader and I'm usually great at doing all of this stuff. And then like lately I've just been really confused and struggling and I'm not sleeping, help me. And they usually want the magic pill. So they want me to go, here we go and take this and you'll be fine. Really is. It's an unpacking, the unpacking of everything right down to the root of their own belief system that's driving them. And I think that's the most powerful stuff that I work with people on. It's getting them to own their beliefs and find out where they've come from, and then allow them to have the choice, decide whether that's going to serve them going forward. Unpacking is this kind of term that I use. And also it's really beautiful, I think, just for someone to hold space for you. Particularly, I love holding space for leaders because they're holding space for a lot of people. So when they come to me, I'm holding space for them. So sometimes if they've got a lot of emotion that's just like needing to come out, we might spend a whole session of them venting all their frustrations at me, and you can just see their body drop and softness start to come in towards the end of session. And do you know what? They're paying me, but I'm actually not doing anything in that session, really. I'm just holding space. And then once they let the emotion go, then we can start unpacking some of the beliefs and the thoughts and the scenarios that may be serving them or not serving them, and working with them at a deep level around that.
Enjoyed moving some emotion this morning, actually. That was kind of a group version of that, I guess. It was really nice. It almost seems as though when we, I guess on one side, so the typical day is emotions are coming up and we have some sort of interrelationship with those emotions, thoughts, and feelings, and it's often sort of adversarial. And that when we, instead of pushing away or just kind of driving through things and just pushing on and doing that, if instead we kind of turn towards them and almost engage with them or invite them, or it's almost like you're exercising your emotions, aren't you? You're like bringing them up. And there seems to be something on the other side of that that's pretty special. How does that work? And do you have any sense of why that works?
Well, we're really gifted with emotions. Like if you think of emotion as energy in motion, they're designed to move through us. They're designed to serve us in every moment. Unfortunately, though, because we do have these strong minds, we have kind of learned that emotions, particularly the more negative ones, if we want to call them negative emotions, of like anger or sadness, ones that don't feel as good in the body, that we should suppress those or push those away. And I feel there's a lot of leaders in particular who are quite tough-minded, i.e. they're using their mind to override emotions, which will come back and, emotions don't just disappear. If it's energy in motion, if you suppress it or you put it away, it's going to come back somewhere else. So learning to work with your emotions, and first of all, there's a belief that underpins that emotions are messengers, that emotions are great things that we're gifted with to help us survive and help us live this life. So forming actually a beautiful relationship with our emotions is really powerful. And then I don't know if you can think back to the last emotional experience that you've had, or the most profound one. But as you allowed yourself to travel through that emotion, maybe it was anger and you went outside and you punched a punch bag, or you let the anger out, or maybe it was sadness and you just like hugged yourself and you had a really great cry and you let the tears come. We always feel better on the other side of that. And I love looking at body language. And again, on this retreat, as an example, people come and you can kind of see in their bodies that they're holding on. And at the end of the retreat, they just walk away so much lighter and they've just let stuff go. And I think right there, I think it's just magic. Emotions are just beautiful. And I'd encourage us to believe that all the emotions we experience are there for a reason, and to try and get curious with them.
Is there kind of maybe an easy at-home sort of practice where you could have a conversation or learn? Like, how do you learn from an emotion?
Oh my God, do you know what? There's some great kids books out there at the moment.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think there's a book called How Do I Feel? A New Zealand book, and it's unreal. I love it. Yeah, it's doing exactly that. And I know so many adults who have this book and are like, they learn what I'm doing and they're like, my kid has that book. And then they start reading it and they're like, this is great. Just taking the moment. I believe a meditation practice really is a beautiful starting point, because it takes a while just to calm down the mind and just come into a place of self. And then from that place, we can check in. What is the emotion that's visiting me? And the great thing about the kids' book is that they talk about that you aren't your emotions. It's not like I am angry or I am sad, but that anger is visiting me or sadness is visiting me. So it's encouraging children to not get scared or fearful about their emotions. And I think we can learn a lot from that as adults too.
So this feeling is visiting me, and what is it that it wants me to know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Any guidance for somebody who might be struggling with a particular area of their life? Like how would you start to dissect or direct someone in the right direction or help them to find hope?
It's quite a big question because we're quite complex human beings. But the first starting point is to be kind to yourself. Again, this is another judgment that we've picked up in the world, is that if we are feeling low or we're feeling overly anxious for prolonged periods of time, I am broken. And then what happens when you label yourself with broken is then there's like what we call the second arrow or the third arrow, where you start beating yourself up. So it's really important, if you're feeling something, and be it overwhelm or anxiety or depression, sadness, first start by just giving yourself some love and saying it's okay. Because as human beings, we're all going to travel through all of these emotions. And then you reach out to someone. There's lots of people out there. Unfortunately, we are having a bit of a mental health crisis at the moment. So a lot of therapists are actually pretty busy. It's a bit of a tricky situation. If you're really in crisis mode and you can't find someone, there's a beautiful app called BetterHelp, which is a really great starting point just to get you curious and talking about your feelings, emotions with someone. And that's kind of like you can just access that on the fly. So I love that as a resource that we have. Yeah, just reach out to people, reach out to myself as well. I've got lots of beautiful people that I work with. And if you can't find someone, then actually going on retreat or going into a supportive environment. I remember when I had a significant thing happened in my life, and actually I went to a therapist at that time. I was only a year into New Zealand, so I wasn't quite sure who to go to. And actually that therapist at the time was trying to put me onto anti-anxiety meds. I was like experiencing a lot of anxiety, but everything I knew was just like, I didn't want to go on medication. It felt like I wasn't listening to my body or the messengers. And it felt like the quick win, but not really the win. And I decided to take myself to Bali, and I did a couple of back-to-back retreats, knowing that I was actually just flooded with cortisol. I needed to come down. I needed to be in a supportive environment. And from that place, I could find clarity. So I'm a massive fan of retreats. For some people, if you're feeling extreme overwhelm, I actually think they're a better thing to do before you reach out to the therapist, because they help you reconnect back with yourself and gain clarity, really tending to the physiological system. And then from that point, you could find therapists, you could find help. I'm actually bringing out a bit of a guide, hoping it will be ready by the end of the year, helping people decipher the different types of therapies out there. Because, there's psychologists, there's psychoanalysts, there's somatic therapists.
Couples therapy, there's all sorts of, yeah.
And a lot of people don't know what they need in that moment. So I'm trying to bring out, a bit of a guide so that people can start deciphering that. Yeah. BetterHelp is an app, and, just reach out to a therapist. I think it's better to talk to someone than no one.
Yeah.
So just get started on the journey. Also, I'd recommend you speak to about 3 different therapists if you can up front, and then you can work out which one's going to be the best fit for you.
Cool. Any favorite books lately?
Oh my goodness, I do love books. I've just finished reading Breathe. Also, Belonging by Owen Eastwood. I'm running a 2-day executive team away days. You call it retreat if you want. And we're doing it all around this essence of belonging by Owen Eastwood, who talks about particular teams in the corporate world and how we all need that sense of belonging. That was a really powerful book.
Yeah, cool.
But The Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker was a really good one too.
Yeah, that was a good book. Was there a moment back there where you knew that you wanted to be a therapist?
It kind of has just evolved. My mum used to say that I was just always a really curious child. Like I'd just stare at people and things in the environment and just be quite analytical. So I think my mum kind of nudged me a little bit into psychology. And I love people. I feel so blessed to have taken this career and sort of learnt what I've learnt.
And that was about 15 years ago you got into psychology. And were there particular highlights along the way? Have there been things that stuck more for you, particular maybe modalities or techniques that you find most valuable?
Yeah, my career has been quite varied over the 15 years because I started off in organizations working for the organization to assess leaders for promotions. And so I was in the assessment space. But then I realized that my passion was developing leaders. So actually working with people to develop and helping them develop. It's hard to single out because the whole journey's just been so, I'm this kind of person where I feel if I'm not learning, I'm always on to the next thing. So there's been so many different modalities. I think the biggest learning for me was taking my, what I would call my predominantly cognitive based trainings around psychology and then coupling them with my life experience. And I've had some significant things that have happened in life. And I realized that my traditional training in psychology actually only got me so far. And then it became the learnings of yoga and meditation and this whole field of somatics that was really eye-opening for me, particularly breath work, realizing the power of breath, and then bringing together these Eastern and Western philosophies into this whole holistic approach of meeting a human being.
Can you define somatics for those listening? What is somatics?
So somatics is, they say to somatize it, to feel it in the body. So the field of somatics is helping you solve a problem, a challenge, by kind of trying to remove the brain, removing the thinking process. So unlike traditional talking therapies, if you go and visit a somatic therapist, they'll probably get you to close down the eyes. They'll say, how are you feeling this thing in your body? And you will start in the body. You'll usually use like visualizations, meditation techniques, and it's all about like mobilizing energy, coming to the felt sense of that experience. And then usually you'll kind of put in the thinking and the narrative to integrate at the end. Whereas a lot of talking therapies will traditionally, you'll come to them, I've got this problem, got this thing going on at work right now, let's talk about it. And you're just talking, but you're not really feeling the impact of that on the body. So somatics is the art of feeling the experience and working through the felt sense of the experience to come to a conclusion, as opposed to cognitively doing it.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a memory of maybe a first or kind of an early experience of what spirituality has been for you?
Oh, what a beautiful question. I started my yoga and meditation journey probably about 11 years ago. So that was the doorway into spirituality for me, or this sense of being connected to everything. I feel like I was like this person working in this corporate world, I was working for global consulting firms, doing the thing, studying and researching emotional intelligence, all from a very intellectual space. Then I took some time out for myself because I realized actually probably I wasn't the most emotionally intelligent person. I was helping all these people, but what did that mean for me? So I took some time out and had a beautiful experience which started me on this spiritual journey where I literally just spent 4 months by myself on a beach. And I guess it was just like an extremely long Vipassana.
Wow, 4 months.
But it was the most profound thing I ever did because it helped me reconnect with who I was and realize that I was living this life outside of myself that I thought other people wanted me to be. So that was like a little doorway into spirituality. But my most profound experience with spirituality came when my mum came to visit here in New Zealand and died very suddenly in a car accident. Now that forced me into a whole overwhelm of emotion and grief, but also like I had to travel through that whole experience quite alone really because I was here. I had to make decisions and I wouldn't have said that in the moment, but now looking back, I realized that was like such a profound spiritual journey for me, particularly IDing my mum's body, because I'd always seen her as the identities and the narratives and the experiences between me and her that I'd put into that box. Seeing her body, I realized that there was a lot more to my mum, this whole notion of the soul and the spirit. I guess I found spirituality through that. This feeling of overwhelming connection to everything and everyone. And when I work with people, helping them strip back their own layers, the identities and labels and the judgment, and come to this place of being, it really is the most magical place.
Wow. Yeah, even as you were talking about that, every once in a while we're gifted with these moments where we become aware or we become curious as to whether there's something that we're not aware of, in the present moment.
Yeah.
And it kind of opens this gateway into presence. Thank you. Sam, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's been a real joy, and I've personally enjoyed just kind of cracking open from the inside and just having a look and letting things melt and be felt. So really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Damian.
You're so welcome.
Thanks for listening. Spending time with Samantha reminded me that the bravest leadership move isn't doing more, it's feeling more. If you're carrying decision fatigue or chronic tension, consider slowing down, finding things you can take off your shoulders, checking in, and finding practices that help you show up lighter. Please do follow the show and join us next time for more adventures in well-being. Much love.